Ready to go?
I'm ready.
So listen, we're talking to Trevor Perry, who's on his card itself says he's a storyteller. First of all, Trevor, what does it mean to be a storyteller? Why does it excite you so much?
So in forever and ever in my life, I've been translating the really icky, sticky things into easy to understand concepts. Not so that they solve problems, but they might give you a new perspective on how to solve a problem or how to approach something differently than what you might have been doing. A lot of times we live our lives blinded and or blinkered in Australia. And
blinkered or blinded. We'll take either one.
Yeah, and so what I do is I nudge people into looking at the world with a new perspective. It's not a fresh perspective. It's a evolution of your existing perspective. So you see things. I tell stories about how I used to drive everywhere in Texas, and one day I was on my motorcycle. And on your motorcycle, you got to be aware of what's more around you. And I noticed there was a shop called The Art of Espresso. So art and coffee, my favorite two things. So I went in and I said, this is great. It's a quarter of a mile from my house. I said, how long have you been here? And she said, 8 months. And I'm like, how come I never saw that before? So what is it that we're missing if we live our lives doing the things that we do over and over again? So I give tips and tricks, and in my book called Never Iron When You Were Naked.
Which I've read, and it's full of amazing tips.
I have one.
For all of us.
I have one.
Trevor's reaching in his bag to get it out.
I'm getting out my book.
And the cover's pretty cool too. You have to wait and see it. Here we go.
I'll let you hold it up. Yep. Okay. So there's Ramon holding up Never Iron When You Were Naked.
A lot of great tips.
So I gave it to a famous guy once as my business card, and he said, Trevor, that's going right in the toilet. And I said, why? And he said, best place to read it one page at a time.
He has your humor, Trevor. He has your humor
did.
for
That's
sure.
why we got along. So anyway, the concept there is that there's things that people read it and they go, it's everything I already knew, but it just reminded me. And so
you kind of underlined it for people.
Yes, and exposed it again, showed it. You know, as adults, we forget to play. You know, play is a four-letter word. So what I try and do is I try and bring the play. I take crayons.
And you are experiential, I think the word is speaker. I've seen you in action, Trevor, and you're not just on the stage boring, you bring to life the audience, or bring the audience to life, as it were.
My favorite review recently at a technology conference was not your normal speaker, but knows how to engage the audience. And so for me, that was a wonderful compliment. So the concept is I bring crayons, we play, teach people how to do things. In one of my sessions called Get a Life, I make them write poetry. So I give them parts of a poem, and they fill in the rest with a crayon. And
brings you back that play out always.
It does. And I say to people, what do you think when you see crayons? And they go, children, kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so let's be childlike again for a moment, in balance or in what we're doing, in creativity and in learning and understanding technology. Kids learn languages easily.
Yeah. They pick it up faster than us old people. So.
Yes, and I'm an adult. I can't learn French for trying, and I work for companies that are in Montreal, and I have to learn how to speak. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Trevor,
Bonsoir.
One more thing I want to touch on is that I know that you're a techie, and that's a broad word. You're a technologist. You're steeped into that, and you can explain whatever that means. But those of you who know what it means, you know what it means. What are some of the tools and things? I know that for you it's important not just for us to be focused on tech, but you're all about life. You're about balance. You're about bettering ourselves. What does that mean? Can you walk us through that, and why is it so important to you?
So part of it is that technology connects us, but it also isolates us as well. And we need that technology to connect. For example, Facebook has connected me with people I went to high school with, and I have some really amazing and wonderful friends again.
Yeah.
But it also isolates us. You can put something out controversial and people will slam you for it. So the understanding of having a new perspective also means knowing where technology fits and where you can use it. And that's another perspective. I'm on my phone all the time.
Yeah.
How do you get off that thing and put it down?
Which as we tape this, so many people are battling with how to be more connected as humans.
Exactly.
Even though we're techies.
Yes. And part of it is just being in person. The way you talk to people is different in real life. I've done sessions where I've written on the web and I write in a very Australian direct manner, and for some people that sounds condescending. And people rush to my defense and say, you've got to see him in person.
Absolutely.
And that's the key, is that in-person thing. So I encourage people to become together.
Yes.
If you're struggling at home and feeling lonely, go out somewhere. You know, a simple thing is I find bookstores are my sanctuary. And I don't have to talk to any of the people, but it's amazing to sit there and be able to read a book and enjoy it. Or for some people, on the edge of a lake, on a river,
right.
on a creek.
That's me.
Yes.
And I think as techies, it's so easy, Trevor, as you're hinted to, get behind a keyboard, behind a computer, on our phone scrolling, and we forget that human connectivity. But what I'm seeing through your books, through your writing, through things you do and seeing you on stage, and your comedy, touching on that a bit, you're about the human connection.
Yes. Well, that's part of it. And part of it is that as a storyteller, what I do is I talk about things in a way that people are not expecting.
Right.
And I translate. So if I look at something, I will try and translate it. I've been working on cliches, and I have coined the phrase unperspective to apply unperspective to things. So for example, I keep hearing things like, this lady works so hard, she's having some well-deserved rest. And I'm like, you know what? If you're working that hard, why aren't you balancing and getting the rest during it? So if you have life-work balance, you know, you don't pack it all up and then go, oh, now I have a rest.
And I'm going to push on that a minute, Trevor. I know that's on your card, this aspect of work-life balance. As people who are busy, again, we can't solve it in this video we're doing, but how do we do that? When you're on stage and people are looking at this video who are looking, should we have Trevor for our event, hiring him and working with him? What is that thing you're going to start telling the audience about?
So I start with this. There is no such thing as work-life balance. And the really interesting part about that is there simply isn't. Like right now, we're focused on something that is for me, to interview me, and I've taken you away from your things. We're unbalanced at this
and we've
moment.
worked together over it's business. We've been transactionally over time.
While we're doing that, we're unbalanced because we're not paying attention to our family or our friends or our other things, our speaking business. So we're unbalanced at any given moment. There's no balance. Now, in a day, there may be things that you do and you shift. Now I'm going to go and spend time with my wife, my family, whatever, and I may have some unbalance over in that direction. So balance is about, and I always say life is a roller coaster, hang on for the ride. That's the unbalance.
That's for sure.
If you are striving for balance, then you can look back and see that you've had balance over a period of time. So striving for balance is the key thing, but it's about awareness. You've got to be aware that you're looking for it. If you sort of forget and you live in that world, you end up not having any balance at all. It's always skewed, and technology is an unskewing, or it's a skewing of that. So there is no balance in this moment. People go, I have balance. Well, in my life, generally, I might have. But for this moment, I'm out of balance. And that's what's got to shift.
Wow.
Whether it's 3 legs of a stool or 4, whatever analogy you want to use to do it, balance actually comes by striving for it. And then you say, okay, look, I need to spend time on what things? Work, life, me, family. I've got to at least be aware of them. Otherwise, I'll work, 60, 70, 80 hours a week because but I enjoy it.
Yeah, and which is a trap for some of us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Trevor, listen, as people are thinking about working with you and hiring you, I know, knowing you personally, Trevor, 3 things that come to mind for me is the human dimension is so, so important from you. That human dimension, I know, which is broad too. As a technologist, you relate to technology people. And I think 3, that world, Australian, right? No, is it?
Yeah, Australian.
That real world Aussie adopted to the USA type. Anything you want to leave us with? But I think that's for me what I think of you. That humanity, that technology, and real world, no holds barred. I think is the English word, a delivery. Anything else you want to add?
So I always say that when you walk into my sessions that I believe we cross paths with people in our lives, and sometimes it's for a moment and you move on, and sometimes it's for a little longer, for example. But sometimes it's your day to meet me and cross paths with me, and maybe you might have a change in something or a new perspective. If not, you're going to have a really fun time in my session. And we get to play a little bit. And the best one was a bunch of grumpy old men in the back who looked at the crayons and the Lego blocks on their table and said, "Moo." And at the end of it, they were all playing with it. we have the ability for a moment to get out of this bubble that we live in, for whatever bubble it is, and get to enjoy and play. It starts with my sessions, and then it starts to spread to your life, and that's when you start to get the balance. And that's what I enjoy, seeing people come back and tell me the stories of what they did. I get accused of changing their life. I never did. They did. I was the catalyst.
Wow.
So I've called myself the perspective catalyst, because I'm going to be a catalyst for a different perspective, an evolved perspective that you have, and it's the starting point of many things for many people. If not, you're going to really enjoy the sessions.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this from me, a friend of mine, listen, you've heard Trevor Perry. Check him out at trevorperry.com. If you want particular things we talked about, trevorperry.com/life, trevorperry.com/work. You've heard from me, friend of Trevor, seeing him in action, great speaker, loves the human dimension, technology, and that straightforward talk. And he's pretty funny too. So you're going to have one of the best speakers for your event, host, and etc. So Trevor Perry, thank you, my man.
Ramon, fabulous. Thank you.